Good day. I am Miss Marian Morano, and we will be reporting about human relations approach under Professor Fortunato Hidalanga. With me are Miss Maricel Fabilio and Miss Sheila May Bagain as co-discussants. Let us start with a short prayer. Let us put ourselves in the presence of the Lord.
Dear Lord, we thank you for the gift of life today. You allow us to have another day to praise you and see your glory. Thank you for the love and protection, especially this time of pandemic. Bless us, Father, with your wisdom as we begin our class. Help us to focus our hearts and minds on what we are about to learn. Inspire us by your Holy Spirit as we think and listen. Guide us by your eternal light as we discover more about the world around us. Lord, we thank you and let your will be done in our lives. We ask all this in the mighty name of Jesus. Amen.
Right after this, we will be following it with an energizer to make us feel alive while we are watching this video report. I hope that you will follow with the actions.
Dum dum da da, 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 dum dum da da.
All right. Were you able to follow with the energizers? I hope that you are now ready to listen. Give your difference. Welcome my difference. Unify all difference in the larger whole. Such is the law of growth. The unifying of difference is the eternal process of life, the creative synthesis, the highest act of creation, the at-one-ment. So today we will be learning about human relations approach by Mary Parker Follett. Mary Parker Follett occupies a very significant place in the development of thinking and practice around adult and informal education. Her contribution can be seen in three particular areas. First, her involvement in advocacy and community centers in the first two quarters of the 20th century. Second, her theorizing around the notions of community experience and the group. Third, she was able to help key figures like Henry Crowley and Edward Lindman. Not only that, she helped them develop their thinking, but also she was able to help access important sources, or especially the financial help. Mary Parker Follett is better known for her pioneering work on management, although her contribution was soon forgotten after her death in 1933, especially in the USA. She looked to approach organizations as group networks rather than as hierarchical structures and attended to the influence of human relations within the group. In terms of current debates around management, such a perspective is hardly revolutionary, but then its radicalism and soft orientation stood well outside mainstream. Our objectives: have an in-depth understanding about human relations approach and management. Distinguish the four systems of management. Enumerate, comprehend, and apply the major ideas of Follett. Who is Mary Parker Follett? Let's learn about her life, contributions, and achievements. Mary Parker Follett was born in 1868 in an affluent Quaker family in Quincy, Massachusetts. She was educated at the Thayer Academy but had to take on a significant role within the family in her teens when her father died. Her mother was disabled. In 1892, she entered Society for the Collegiate Instruction of Women in Cambridge, Massachusetts, later Radcliffe College, where she graduated in 1898 in economics, government, law, and philosophy. While at Radcliffe, she spent a year at Newnham College, Cambridge. Her research thesis at Radcliffe was published in 1896 as the Speaker of the House of Representatives and quickly became a standard work. From 1900 to 1908, Follett became involved in social work in the Roxbury neighborhood of Boston. From 1908, Mary Parker Follett became involved in the movement to establish community centers in public schools as chairperson of the Women's Municipal League's Committee on Extended Use of School Buildings. In 1911, the committee was able to open the East Boston High School Social Center as an experiment for the winter. Parker Follett was to serve as a member of the Massachusetts Minimum Wage Board, and in 1917 she became vice president of the National Community Center Association. From the early 1920s, Mary Parker Follett devoted a significant amount of attention to the state of management and administration in industry and public institutions. Creative experience followed in 1924. Follett became a popular lecturer. Basically, she took her ideas around community groups and networks and applied them to public and commercial organizations. With the continuing rise of scientific management and reaction to the social obligations that their views place upon organizations, her calls for more human approach to administration got less of an audience. After her death in 1933, according to Peter F. Drucker, she gradually became a non-person. Her ideas were not acceptable in the mainstream of American management and organization thinking of the 1930s and 1940s. However, in Britain, she still had a significant following. Her various speeches and articles around management, for example, were brought together and published in England in Dynamic Administration in 1941. Gradually, a number of management thinkers and practitioners began to pick up on her, especially in Japan in the 1960s, and with the emergence of discourses around the learning organization, she has become recognized as a prophet of management. Follett's human relations approach to the basis of effective management was echoed later by such writers as the American social psychologist Francis Likert, 1903 to 1981. His research was summarized by Derek Pugh as follows: 4 systems of management. System 1, the exploitative, authoritative type. This system is Where management uses fears and threats, communication is downwards, superiors and subordinates are psychologically far apart. The bulk of decisions are taken at the top of the organization. System number two, the benevolent, authoritative type. This is the type where management uses rewards, subordinates, attitudes are subservient to superiors. Information flowing upwards is restricted to what the boss wants to hear. Policy decisions are taken at the top, but decisions within a prescribed framework may be delegated to lower levels. System number three, the consultative type, where management uses rewards, occasional punishment, and some involvement is sought. Communication is both down and up, but upward communication, other than that, which the boss wants to hear, is given in limited amounts and only cautiously. In this system, subordinates can have a moderate amount of influence on the activities of their departments, as broad policy decisions are taken at the top and more specific decisions at lower levels. System number four is characterized by participative group management. Management gives economic rewards and make full use of group participation and involvement in setting high performance goals, improving work methods. Communication flows downwards, upwards, and with peers and is accurate. Subordinates and superiors are very close psychologically. Decision making is widely done throughout the organization through group processes and is integrated into the formal structure by regarding the organization chart as a series of overlapping groups, with each group linked to the rest of the organization by means of persons who are members of more than one group. System number four, management produces high productivity, greater involvement of individuals, and better labor management relations. Mary Parker Follett's management theory. These are four major ideas which could be discussed under the following subtopics. So we have here the constructive conflict, coordination, power, authority, control, and leadership. Constructive conflict. Follett argues that conflict as a natural and inevitable part of life does not necessarily have to lead to deleterious outcomes. Rather, if approached with the right analytical and imaginative tools, a conflict can present an opportunity for positive or constructive development. Follett's definition of conflict as difference is a bit unconventional. She argues that differences or conflict of interest in itself does not make a conflict. According to Follett, there are three ways to respond to conflict. First is dominance. Dominance means victory of one side over the other. This works in the short term, but is unproductive in the long run. To make her point, Follett presciently refers to the results of the World War I. Compromise. Compromise means each party having to give up something for the sake of a meaningful reduction of friction. Far be it from ideal, compromise often leaves parties unsatisfied, having given up something of value. Integration. The option championed by Follett means creatively incorporating the parties' fundamental desires, interests into the solution. When two desires are integrated, that means that a solution has been found in which both desires have found a place that neither side has had to sacrifice anything. Let us take one of our illustrations. In the Harvard Library one day, in one of the smaller rooms, someone wanted the window open and wanted it shut. We opened the window in the next room where no one was sitting. There was not a compromise because there was no curtailing of desire. We both got what we really wanted. For I did not want a closed room. I simply did not want the north wind to blow directly on me. Likewise, the other occupant did not want that particular window open. He merely wanted more air in the room. One advantage of integration over compromise I have not yet mentioned. If we get only compromise, the conflict will come up again and again in some other form. For in compromise, we give up part of our desire, and because we shall not be content to rest there, sometime we shall try to get the whole of our desire. Watch industrial controversy, watch international controversy, and see how often this occurs. Only integration really stabilizes. But the stabilization, I do not mean anything stationary. Nothing ever stays put. I mean only that that particular conflict is settled and the next occurs on a higher level. That is according to Follett's simple situational example. The method to integrative bargaining, according to Follett, is to bring the real differences out to the open. Taking her cues from psychology, she writes, the psychiatrist tells his patient that he cannot help him unless he is honest in wanting his conflict to end. The uncovering, which every book on psychology has rubbed into us from some years now as the process of the utmost importance for solving the conflicts which the individual has within himself, is equally important for the relations between groups, classes, race, and nations. In business, the employer, in dealing either with his associates or his employees, has to get underneath all the camouflage, has to find the real demand as against the demand put forward, distinguish declared motive from real motive, alleged cause from real cause, and to remember that sometimes the underlying motive is deliberately concealed and that sometimes it exists unconsciously. The first rule, then, for obtaining integration is to put your cards on the table. Face the real issue. Uncover the conflict. Bring the whole thing into the open. This type of uncovering in the context of conflict and productive negotiation, explained Follett, often leads to a re-evaluation of one's desires and interests. Another way of saying this is that uncovering leads people to move from position to interest-based thinking and negotiation. Follett's 4 principles of coordination. Principle of early stage. According to this principle, coordination must start at an early age in the management process. It must start during the planning stage. This will result in making the best plans and implementing these plans with success. If coordination is started on early, only then all the management functions will be performed successfully. Thus, by initiating proper coordination, the organization will achieve all its objectives easily and quickly. Next is the principle of continuity. According to this principle, coordination must be a continuous process. It must not be a one-time activity. The process of coordination must begin with the organization starts, and it must continue until the organization exists. Coordination must be done continuously during the management process. It must be done during the planning, organizing, directing, and controlling. Next is the principle of direct contact. According to this principle, all managers must have a direct contact with their subordinates. This will result in good relations between the manager and their subordinates. This is because direct contact helps to avoid misunderstanding, misinterpretations, and disputes between managers and subordinates. It enables the managers to coordinate at all different activities of their subordinates effectively and efficiently. And the last one is the principle of reciprocal relations. The decisions and actions of all the people, example, the managers and the employees and departments of the organization, are interrelated. So the decisions and actions of one person or department will affect all the other persons and departments in the organization. Therefore, before taking any decision or action, all managers must first find out the effects of that decision or action on another person and departments in the organization. Coordinations will be successful only if the principle is followed properly. Now let's go to power, authority, and control. Power. She defines power as the ability to make things happen, to be a casual agent, to initiate change. Authority. Follett defines authority as vested power, the right to develop and exercise power. Therefore, she says that central authority, example, derivation of authority from the chief executive, should be replaced by authority of function, in which each individual has final authority within the allotted function. She feels that authority can be conferred on others, and such conferment is not delegation. She expresses the clear terms that delegation is authority should be an obsolete expression. Like authority, responsibility also flows from the function and situation. Therefore, one should ask, for what is one responsible? Then, to whom is one responsible? Follett also believes in the pluralistic concept of responsibility or cumulative responsibility. Next, control. Control, like authority and responsibility, is important aspect to achieve organizational goals. If organizations are to be well integrated, unified, and coordinated, control should be designed and developed as part of the unifying process. A unified organization is a self-regulating and self-directing organism. In all such organizations, Follett feels control tends to be self-control. Leadership. What is your idea, like your basic concept of leadership? Well, Follett believes that the old ideas of leadership are changing because of the changes in the concept of human relations and developments in management. A leader is not the president of the organization or head of the department, but one who can see all around a situation, who sees it as related to certain purposes and policies, who sees it evolving into the next situation, who understands how to pass from one situation to another. According to her, you should see situations that are not yet happening. A leader is the man who can energize his group, who knows how to encourage initiative, how to draw from all what each has to give. The man who can show that the order is integral to the situation. Leadership goes to the man who can grasp the essentials of an experience and, as we say, can see it as a whole, and to whom the total interrelatedness is most clear. He is the expression of a harmonious and effective unity which he has helped to form and which he is able to make a going concern. A leader also has to organize experience of the group and transform it into power. Follett stresses that leaders are not only born but can be made through education and training in organization and management. The success of any organization depends on its being sufficiently flexible to allow the leadership of function to operate fully, to allow the men and women with knowledge and the technique to control the situation.
Good day, everyone. My name is Maricel Oropel Fabilio from the school's district of Oton, Oton Central Elementary School. Today, I'm going to discuss about Elton Mayo in human relation theory. But before we proceed to our main topic, allow me to present to you our objectives. Our first objective is define human relation. Second, discuss the important aspects of human relation movement. Third, enumerate the 4 phases of Hawthorne experiments. And lastly, identify the findings of the Hawthorne experiments. So we are done with our objectives. So this time, I'm going to present to you the questions that would guide and help you to understand our topic. First question is, what is human relation? Second, who is Elton Mayo? Third, what are the aspects of human relation movement? Lastly, what are the 4 phases of Hawthorne experiments? Let me show you a picture. What can you say about this picture? What this picture symbolizes? If your answer is all about relationship, friendship, camaraderie, you are correct. Because our topic is all about human relation. So what is human relation? If you say human relation, it is known as New Classical Approach. It is the relationship between human resources of the organization. So always put this in your mind that human resource is one of the most important assets of an organization. Hence, healthy human relations lead to increased productivity and efficiency. It also plays a crucial role in growth and success of the organization. Who is the man behind human relation? Who is Elton Mayo? He is an Australian psychologist, sociologist, organizational theorist, and father of human relation. You know what? Elton Mayo was the first person to plead for the understanding of workers' problems in the George Elton Mayo context of the growth of science and technology. He wished the management to understand the problems of workers and make efforts to redress them. Elton Mayo made a study and he called it Hawthorne Studies. So what is all about Hawthorne Studies? This theory gives higher importance to human relationship. It considers employees as a higher being rather than factor of production. It gives importance to workers' need, feeling, and interest in jobs. Its primary focus is on human factor of an organization. This study marks the beginning of human relation theory. Hawthorne Studies consist a series of experiments that focuses on behavior in workplace. Next, productivity is not only a technical but also social phenomenon or workers' attitude groom productivity. Workers are motivated by social needs, and teamwork improve efficiency. Hawthorne experiments have 4 phases. Phase 1, Illumination Experiment Electricity. Phase 2, Relay Assembly Test Room Experiment. Phase 3 is Moss Interview Program. And Phase 4 is the Bank Wire Room Observation Experiment. So let us discuss the 4 phases of Hawthorne experiments one by one. Are you ready? Phase 1 is the Great Illumination Experiment. In order to test the traditional belief that better illumination or a physical factor will lead to higher level of productivity, 2 groups of employees were selected. The control group, where the illumination remained unchanged throughout the experiment, and the experimental group, where the intensity of illumination was changed. What happened during the experiment of Phase 1? The brightness of the light was increased and decreased to find out the effect of change in intensity of illumination on the productivity of the test group. Surprisingly, the productivity increased even when the level of illumination was decreased. And now let us proceed to the second phase of Hawthorne's study, the Relay Assembly Test Room Experiment. Under this experiment, 6 female and telephone assembled and were put in a separate room. Frequently, changes were made in their working. In spite of such changes in the performance and productivity was increasing. Thus, this experiment suggests the socio-physiological factors are keys for higher performance and productivity. How about the third phase of Hawthorne experiments, which is the mass interview program? Under this phase, a huge mass of workers were interviewed in order to know their perception on the working life. This theory primarily focuses on human relation rather than physical working condition. And this interview confirmed that the importance of informal relation helps in satisfying personal and social satisfaction to workers and influence their behavior in order to provide higher output. And now let us proceed to the last phase of Hawthorne experiment, which is the bank wiring observation room experiment. The main purpose of the experiment was to know the effect of social relationship in a work group. This experiment concluded that employees would work hard if they believe that management are concerned about their welfare and if superior paid attention and care to them. According to this experiment, employees are guided more by group product norms. I'm going to present to you the findings of the Hawthorne experiments. These are socio-technical entities. Second, group influence. Third, supervision. Fourth, employee morale and motivation. Fifth, working conditions and communication. Lastly, balanced approach. For the socio-technical entity, a factory is not only a techno-economic unit, but also a social unit, where the social interaction among its members is extremely important. This social characteristic at work plays an important role in motivating people. The output increased in relay room test due to effective functioning of a social group with a warm relationship with its supervisors. For the group influence, the workers in a group develop a common psychological bond, uniting them as a group in the form of informal organization. Their behavior at work is greatly influenced by these groups. Pressure of a group rather than management demands frequently has the strongest influence on how productive workers would be. For the supervision, employee-centered leaders always tend to be more effective than the task-oriented leaders. The style of supervision affects workers' attitude towards work and his productivity. A supervisor who is friendly with his workers and takes interest in their social problems can get cooperation and better results from the subordinates. For the employee morale and motivation, human and social motivation can play even a greater role than mere monetary incentives in motivating and managing employee group. So Mayo pointed out that workers were not simply cogs in machinery. Instead, the employee morale, the both individual and in groups, can have profound effects on productivity. For working conditions and communication, productivity increases as a result of improved working conditions in the organization. Experiments have shown that the output increases when workers are explained the logic behind various decisions, and their participation in decision making brings better results. This calls for participative style of leadership. And the last finding is the balanced approach. It can be concluded that financial incentives and better work environment alone cannot increase the performance of the workers. Social and psychological needs of employees must also be satisfied in order to increase the productivity. So this calls for a balanced approach to the management to yield maximum results. Alton Mayo received criticisms in his Hawthorne experiments. These are reactive approach. The Hawthorne experiments were mainly conducted as a reaction to the classical schools of management thoughts. Locks of validity. The Hawthorne experiments were conducted under controlled situations. The results in a real-time situation may vary. One-sided. The Hawthorne experiments give too much importance to human aspects and ignore technological and other factors in improving productivity. Financial motivators. The approach completely ignores the importance of financial incentives in motivating workers. Next is the individual decision. At times, some hard decisions have to be taken in an organization, and it is impractical to try to please everyone all the time. And lacks empirical support. There is hardly any empirical support for the view happy workers are more productive, which is the focal theme of this school. And so that is all about my report. And the next slide will be discussed by Ma'am Sheila May Bagahin.
Good day, everyone. I am Sheila May Villanueva Bagain of Aton Central Elementary Schools District of Aton. My topic is the continuation of Ma'am Maricel Pabilio's report, Neo-Human Relation. Before we proceed to the topic, let me present to you our objectives. First, we have defined neo-human relations. Next, discuss the works of different psychologists who studied neo-human relations. Third, identify the hierarchy of needs. Fourth, enumerate the four main patterns of management based on the behavior of managers. But before we proceed with the topic, let me ask you some questions. Do you have any idea about neo-human relations theories? Is it needed in our profession as educators or as future administrators? So what is neo-human relations? Neo-human relations, it is a body of theories developed in 1950s and 1960s within the realm of occupational psychology, which suggests the prevailing pattern of work organization, leaving individuals with narrow jobs and little responsibility frustrate workers' needs for self-actualization and hence lead to low levels of job satisfaction. The emphasis of neo-human differs from that of human relations in that it assumes worker behavior is determined by material factors such as work technology as well as social relationships. Here are the social psychologists who studied about neo-human relation theories. First, we have Maslow, then MacGregor, Likert, and Ardishes. Let us first discuss the work of Maslow. What is his contribution in the neo-human relation theories? Maslow developed a seminal theory of the needs of human beings. Maslow, this psychologist proposed a hierarchy of human needs building from the basic needs at the base to a higher needs at the top. He made an assumption that people need to satisfy each level of need before elevating their needs to the next higher level. So Maslow formulated the hierarchy of needs. At the base, we have the physiological needs. Is this important? Yes, as employees, we need these physiological needs because we need breaks. We need a proper compensation, a good salary that could enable us to purchase our essentials in life. If physiological needs are attained, an employee can go to the next level of need, which is the safety needs. What are these? So we have to feel secured in our environment, in our working environment. We need to have the security in our work, the tenure of our work, and of course, our retirement benefits. Okay, next we have the level or the love and belongingness needs. An employee should feel loved so that he feels the sense of belongingness within the group, within the company, within the department. This sense of belongingness is needed for the employee to perform his duty well. Next level is the self-esteem. How can we attain this level? So this can be attained if we, the employees, are recognized with our achievements. We should feel appreciated and valued by our supervisors and higher officials. Offered job titles can convey the importance of our positions. And for the highest level in the hierarchy of needs, we have the self-actualization. The self-actualization needs provide an employees a challenge and opportunity to reach their full career potentials. If you are a school administrator, you have to study this. The theory of MacGregor, the theory X, and the theory Y. What is this theory X? This explains the characteristics of an employee or a teacher, for example, that is lazy. He or she tends to avoid responsibilities, and therefore the managers or the supervisors should have a tough discipline or, if pwede, a punishment for this employee so that he or she can perform well in his duties and responsibilities. So we call them as rational economic man. What is this rational economic man? Nga ginatawag siya rational economic. Because ina ba lang mga upod nato nga teachers nga naghambag sa nga magpatay-patay kagida sa obra, nga palarihos man lang kita Japan sweldo. See? Those are the rational economics. What is theory Y? Theory Y is the contrast of theory X. These are the employees who loves working. They are those teachers who like to accept responsibility and even seek responsibility. No? Bisan hindi pa na isa pag-ihatag sa iya ang speakership nga ina. Wow, niya gid ina. Because he loves working. No? May mga upod kita nga mo sina, di ba? Nga may ara nga speakership. That is for her development also, professional development, for promotion. For example, may mga upod kita nga wala man gitagaan sa mga amo na speakership nga mga during graduation or during last session, pero ginakuha niya na ang responsibility nga na because he belongs to the theory Y employee. So that's why this employee needs space to develop their imagination and ingenuity. Kinahanglan niya balaan ina nga mga employees balaan do mga maalam, magsipag, kinahanglan nila yang magkuha gid sa damo nga responsibility kay kaya nila. So these are called the self-actualizing men. Next, we have the work of Frederick Herbert. Who is he? He is the most influential names in business management and an American psychologist. Herbert showed the two categories. Here are the motivators and the hygiene factors. The motivators are the factors giving rise to satisfaction, while hygiene factors are factors giving rise to dissatisfaction. And what are those factors that could give and satisfy us as employees? We have achievement, recognition, the work, the responsibility, and the advancement. These are the motivators we need from our supervisors, from our colleagues, from our working environment. If we have those factors that could give satisfaction, we also have these factors that could rise to a dissatisfaction of the employees. What are those? So the following are company policy and recognition. Of course, hindi natin manigar sa aton nga department, may ara gid policy nga daw hindi naton mabaton. But we have no choice. We are here, and we have to. Kung ika nga, we have to go with the flow, right? So, and besides the recognition, is may time nga daw feel mo wala ka na recognize ng imong supervisors, but life must go on. Next, we have the supervision, the technical aspects. So may time isa nga daw you feel unfair, no, sa mga support, sa mga mabatian nato sa palibot halin sa ato ng mga superiors, but those also could give us the satisfaction. Next, we have salary. So this is the most important thing and that could give this satisfaction to the employee. Ang salary gid nato, no? We are very, let's say, not compensated or uncompensated. We're not well compensated. So we have extra jobs, not just teaching. We are working for the work of other departments like the DOH, going the DSWD for the purpose, the warning, the feeding. So those are other jobs from the other department that is given to us teachers that I think is not compensated. And next, we have the interpersonal relations. So what is this interpersonal relations? So sa aton nga hindi naton manigar sa aton nga working environment, may mga time nga hindi kita feel sa aton upod or hindi kita feel sa aton supervisors. So makahatag man sang dissatisfaction sa employee, the interpersonal relationships sa palibot. And then the working conditions. So may time nga daw feel mo hindi ka safe, daw kadamo-damo sang ginapa-work sa imo. So the working condition, I think, can also give a dissatisfaction to the employees, and those are the hygiene factor motivators. Now, let us proceed to the work of Likert. But before that, who is Likert? Likert is an American administrator and organizational psychologist based at the U.S. Department of Agriculture. He described a new patterns of management based on the behaviors of managers. So what are the 4 patterns? So we have the following 4 main patterns: the exploitative, benevolent, consultative, and participative. The exploitative are those supervisors or managers that are authoritative. The power and the directions come from the top downwards. So this kind of supervisors are, masasabi natin, siya lagi ang nasusunod. So, siya ang authority, siya ang nasusunod. If you cannot follow him, you will have the sanctions. You will have the punishment. Next is the benevolent. A benevolent kind of manager is that allow some upward opportunities for consultation. So, ini naman nga supervisor or manager, ga-accept saya sang suggestion from others. Nag-consult siya sang suggestion from other nga maupod niya sa supervisors. For example, sino itong hatagan reward, sino ang deserving, so gina-ask na ang iba niya nga mga upod. And somehow, nagahatag siya recognition sa deserving employee, and also a punishment for those who do not follow. Next, we have the consultative managers. These consultative managers set goals or orders issued upon discussion with subordinates. So, ini sila naman niya nga mga managers and supervisors kung ano to ang ginmitingan, kung ano to ang nasulat sa memorandum or sa mga ilang nga mga meetings, sa ilang nga mga orders, that is to be followed. So, hindi ka na dapat i-question, hindi ka na dapat amuhin na ang ilasundon. So, these are the kinds of consultative managers. And the last, we have the participative. So, this participative supervisors and managers, daw amo niya ang type sa mga employees, I think, no? Kaya hindi sila naghatag isang participation sa tanan. So, ikaw man da ang pinaka-lowest rank, gina-accept ang imo nga suggestion, gina-accept ang imo nga work for the organization to succeed, for the organization to produce a higher quality individuals. The last but not the least, we will discuss the work of RGCs. By the way, who is RGCs? RGCs? RGCs, or Chris RGCs, was an American business theorist and professor emeritus at Harvard Business School. He is known as a co-founder of organizational development and known for seminal work on learning organizations. And RGCs studied that classical models of organization promoted immaturity. He classified the characteristics of employees into 2, which is the immaturity and the maturity employees. What are the traits that belongs to the immature employees? So he narrated a characteristics of an immature employee. We have number 1, passivity. Next, we have dependence, behave in few ways, erratic, shallow interest, short-term perspective, subordinate position, and lack of self-awareness. So these are the employees that do not have a clear goal in his work. So, now, subong namin yaga na sunod wala naman, no, that is passive. So, dugasalig lang siya if ever, anong results ang work yun bahala da si ma'am, bahala ang supervisor, bahala ang manager, manabat sang iyang sala. So, that is immature employee. Then, the opposite is the maturity category. So what are those characteristics or traits that belongs to the matured employee? We have activity. So these employees are very hyperactive. Matanan ang work, kaya niya upo. It has relevance, independence, behave in many ways, deeper interest, long-time perspective, equal or superior position, and awareness of self-control. So ini sila nga mga employee, amo ini sila ang may mga dreams to become someday later on, himo sila supervisors and can be promoted in their positions. And that ends my report. Thank you for listening, and God bless us all.